On this week's episode of Amari Purple Talk, it's the non-spoiler review of Morris Day's On Time, NPG Music Club memories, and more. Amari Purple Talk starts now. Welcome to episode 8 of Amari Purple Talk, a podcast where I share my thoughts on the Prince musical singularity. I'm Richard Cole, your imagination funk soloist, and I want to start by thanking everyone that has tuned in, and I hope you're enjoying the show. Please leave your comments on the show below or on my website, www.amaricommunications.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at Amari_now and on Instagram at RichardCole_Amari. And with that out of the way, we're going to dive into our first topic. And our first topic today is the on-time non-spoiler review. This will be a non-spoiler review of On Time, A Princely Life in Funk, written by Morris Day with David Ritz. There is going to be a spoiler review that I'll post on YouTube, so stay tuned for that. But this is a non-spoiler. So for those that have not read the book yet, this is my opinions on it without giving any details away. So as of October 8th, the book On Time, A Princely Life in Funk was released. I got my copy on time, actually, through Amazon. So I read it. Well, I didn't speed read it, but kind of took opportunities where I don't normally spend time reading and filling those gaps in because I wanted to try to finish the book before I recorded the show. So I managed to finish it Friday, and this book is amazing, and I recommend everyone that is a fan of Morris Day, fan of the time, fan of Prince, and just a fan of music or a fan of the funk in general, I recommend that you buy this book. It's a little shorter than I anticipated, but it doesn't take away from the quality that's in this book. It was very good. There were a lot of page turners from beginning to end. There were maybe a couple of slow spots, but overall, he's opened up, not afraid to tackle some subjects. He was very respectful in others. Won't get into what those specifics were. I know there were some concerns kind of regarding the format of this book. Some of the pages that were available for preview. So those are available, so I can kind of go into those. But the book is it's kind of a spiritual co-collaboration with Prince as far as the narration. It's basically kind of the voices that Morris hears in his head in regards to Prince. And as he's telling this story, it's basically kind of him going back and forth, kind of Prince kind of giving some, in a spiritual context, some commentary on, what Morris is about to explore within this book. Now, I know for some people that was a concern as far as it being a distraction. For me, it was not a distraction. Maybe one or two sections of it. Like I said, I'll get into more specifics with the spoiler review. But for this episode, it didn't take away from, it didn't take me out of the book. Some of the moments where it had that potential of being a distraction, Morris's, the way he gives a narrative, it draws you back in. So you're kind of out there for a quick minute, but you're back into the story as he's telling it, or telling the story as it's unfolding. And, like I said, he's very open, very honest. You do get some deep, or maybe in some places some deeper, I don't know what the word is, but maybe a deeper insight, I would say. Yeah, deeper insight into a lot of, his reflections of him and Prince's friendship, or, even Morris's life in general. So you really, I don't want to do this without giving it away. You get to know Morris Day. I'll put it that way. And I'll let you, when you get the book and when you read it, like I said, you can always comment and, give some of what your reflections are about the book as well. So definitely this is a definite pickup. Like I said, for fans of Morris Day, and I would say even the time in general. Like I said, I don't want to give a lot away, but like I said, if you check out my spoiler review, like I said, I go into a lot. But definitely, yes, if you're definitely a fan of Morris Day, this is the book for you. If you want to know the deeper insights between him and Prince's friendship and how that's explored over the years, the book does an excellent job with that. As far as being a fan of music, Morris Day is, I always felt he was a great musician. I might have learned somewhere within, maybe late 90s or so, maybe early 2000s, about how great of a drummer he is. And through this book, you get an even deeper understanding of that. So as a musician, it's amped my level. So definitely pick this book up. It's great read from beginning to end. I enjoyed it a lot. It's definitely going on my shelf, bookshelf of, with the pantheon of, other artists. There's a few Prince books on that shelf, some Beatles, some Hendrix. So yeah, this book is definitely going in the pantheon of those archives. So check it out. Also too, like I said, leave me a comment. And once you pick it up, once you read it, and also too, once you do read it, then jump over to YouTube and then check out the spoiler review of the book. That way I can go more in depth and let you know. But I kind of just wanted to give a little brief synopsis here, because there's a few people that have read it, and I think there's a couple of reviews on YouTube that have popped up as well already. So definitely I'm sure they'll get into some spoilers, and I'm also looking forward to listening to those podcasts as well. Definitely the Prince podcast, the one hosted by Michael Dean and his crew. So I'm looking forward to listening to that at some point this week. So but like I said, leave me a comment, let me know. And from that, we're going to end this topic, and we're going to go to our next topic, which is 1999 and International Lover Advanced Track Reactions. So since last month, the announcement of the 1999 Super Deluxe Edition, on September 12th, there's a single that had been released, or an advanced track from that collection, which was the 1999 Live at Masonic Hall. So that was released on September 12th. And then just this past Friday, on October 11th, there was the release of the vault track International Lover, which was take one. And that track has Morris Day on drums, and it has Prince on piano, and they're doing this is take one of International Lover. So these will be my reactions for those two advanced tracks. And I'll start with the 1999 Live at Masonic Hall track. I've probably mentioned it in previous episode about my interest in the track and how I enjoyed it. And when I did enjoy it, it's like I said, it's professionally recorded. This was something Prince had in the vault. There's a lot of professionally, probably just like Jimi Hendrix, a lot of live, professionally recorded soundboard recordings of various shows, various tours. So this is definitely one that the fans have not heard before. There's another recording that had been circulating that was been heavily bootlegged, and that's the one fans are familiar with. But this is a kind of a preview of what we're going to get with the live disc from the 1999 Super Deluxe Edition. And yeah, I mean, it takes me back to that era. That was, for me, the prime era, sort of 1999 or Dirty Mind through 1999. Of course, Purple Rain takes it to another level, but as far as what cemented my fandom for Prince was that Dirty Mind through 1999 era. So this really takes me back. There's also a video that had been released on YouTube, which is going to be on the live DVD of the Super Deluxe as well. And that too is also a performance of 1999. But want to stay with the CD version for right now. And like I said, it's really, really great. Like I said, the band, it's not the Revolution. They're not the Revolution yet. Dez is still part of the band, and with that particular lineup, it was everything that, to me, that sort of rock and roll and funk, maybe more so rock and roll in that era, because there were a lot of bands. You had the Cars, you've had Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, who else? Maybe Police to a certain extent, but just band, just guys with guitars, and that sort of new wave punk period. That influence was, both on those groups as well as Prince. That was something that was heavily, an influence on what was going on for the time. So you really kind of get that feeling and that energy. And especially with that lineup of, Prince's band at that time. And for me, I kind of prefer that lineup a little more than the Revolution. Like, it took me a while to warm up to the Revolution, but this particular lineup is definitely, like I said, being 15, 16, from even when Andre Simone was on bass to now Brown Mark being on bass, with that, just that lineup, that energy, it was heavy. It was heavy funk. It was heavy rock and roll at that time. So, and just the recording, you get all these little nuances. Some of the bass lines in there grab my attention. If the performance is the same as the video, there's that segment at the end, and Dez gets to kind of rock out a little bit. That's something that's very exciting for me to see and hear. So I'm looking forward to hearing this in its entirety, both on the CD and on the DVD as well. So that's pretty much my thoughts on the Live at Masonic Hall performance of 1999. That's the advanced track for that. I mean, it sounds great to me. Like I said, I listened to it on Tidal. To me, where the sound quality is a little better than some of the other streaming services. But I enjoy that one a lot. The International Lover Take 1 was one, again, from previous episodes, especially if you've heard my segment in previous episode, which version should you buy? And I kind of go over some of the tracks that I'm looking forward to. That one was definitely high on the list, and mainly because of its Morris Day on drums. That's 80-90% of those Time records. It's Morris on drums, and it's Prince pretty much with everything else. But it starts off with the two of them just kind of running through the songs on it. And International Lover was a song that was intended for the time, but for whatever reason, Prince decided to keep it to himself. But this is the actual take one of the run through of the song. And to me, what's amazing about this is how complete the song is. Everything is pretty much there. Maybe a word or two is switched around, especially the little spoken part at the end. Of course, it seemed more improvised on this particular take. But again, just how much of it is already there. Because sometimes when you listen to other artists and you listen to their unreleased tracks and you hear, whether it's take 1 or take 36, there's always major differences. It could be tempo, it could be an instrument change here and there, it could be a lyric and, an entire line or an entire verse, that's completely different than what you hear on the finished recordings. So, yeah, it's very amazing just how much is already there. And, what's also amazing, too, is, we all know how phenomenal of a musician Prince is. So, we're used to, seeing him or hearing or seeing him on piano. And it's like, oh, yeah, he's great. But, for some reason, just lately, every time I hear just him just on piano, I don't know. It's, something I've taken more notice of and something that I've enjoyed even more. Even with originals with Noon Rendezvous, that has become my definitive favorite version of that song. I mean, I still enjoy the Sheila E. version, but it's just him and the piano is just, it's a different level on that. So, but with this, again, that's, the piano playing is great. The song is there. And, you got Morris on drums. And it's just pretty much a, because it's kind of got that 50s feel. So it's just that kind of little standard, kind of timekeeping sort of, tempo or rhythm that's there. But what's amazing is kind of when they get to the end of it. And, Prince at one point is joking around about the cymbals. Don't touch the cymbals. And then later he's asking to bring the cymbals in. And again, learning, with Morris Day, there are drummers and there are drummers. And Morris Day is the latter. So what he's able to do with the cymbals, when it kind of gets to that end, it adds a certain depth to it. To which now I'm going to have to go back and listen to the finished version of 1999 and see if I can pick up those nuances in there. If they're still blended in with some of the, the keyboards and other things that are on the actual finished recording with that. So, yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to actually, really hearing this once I get the CD version of it. But, yeah, it's, both songs are great. Like I said, it's building my anticipation for it. My anticipation level is already high. But kind of hearing these things every time I go back and listen to both tracks, my excitement is amped. Like, yeah, I can't, the 29th of November can't get here quick enough. So that's pretty much my thoughts on both of those advanced tracks. Now, I'm not sure if there'll be any more before then, but if there are, then I will do a segment of my reactions for those. But what do you think? Have you heard both advanced tracks? Are you excited about them? Does it raise your anticipation for owning the 1999 Super Deluxe? Let me know what you think. So leave me a comment. And then that's going to end our second topic. And we're going to go to our third and final topic, which is kind of an extension from last week's final topic, which was NPG Club Music Memories. Or, actually, I said that backwards, didn't I? NPG Music Club Memories. With this, though, I wanted to do a short episode because, we're going to be doing the Morris Day On Time spoiler review. And I kind of wanted to switch things up a little bit. So this is kind of a combination of the, our weekly segment of album flashback and project wish list. So I've noticed, like I said, the NPG Music Club as a website to me, out of all the websites that Prince had attempted, to me, this was the best. It was also my favorite. And I wish it would have lasted longer. I don't know. I may do maybe a special YouTube segment and just call it MPG Music Club Memories. For those former members that are out there, I know that there's a Facebook page, the MPG Music Club Revisited. Yeah, so I want to kind of get you guys input on that. If there's some certain memories, like I said, share them on that particular special edition. I don't know. I'll work it out and let you guys know. But for this episode, what I want to do is, again, like I said, it's going to be a combination of album flashback and project wish list with this one. We're going to narrow it down to really two of my favorite releases from the MPG Music Club, and that was the Chocolate Invasion and Slaughterhouse albums. A lot of the tracks from those had been previously released on earlier configurations of the MPG Music Club. But right around 2004, to me, that's where it really streamlined as far as the club. It was the year that I joined. It went from being like $100 for lifetime membership. It was down to $25. And then, I jumped on board then. You got the preferred seating for concerts. That's where I got preferred seating for musicology. Second row. I lost the ticket. Don't know where it is. I hope I can find it one day, because that was a special concert there. Being second row, that's the closest with anybody that I've ever seen live. And I've always had good seats for a lot of different shows, but that was the best with that. And also, too, Musicology was released that week. And I'm talking about right around March of 2004. So that month, Musicology was released. And that was special enough, because this was probably the most complete album since the Rainbow Children. This was where he figured out how to do deals with major record labels and still retain a lot of ownership on that. A lot of people were calling it a comeback. For me, I didn't think of it as a comeback. I just thought it was a return to being commercial, where there's two different Princes. There's one that's always been underground. Like I said, for me, that Dirty Mind to 1999 era is always special because it was more underground. Yeah, he had hits, and people knew who he was, but that mainstream sort of crossover to where, with Purple Rain, it put him, Michael Jackson with Thriller, it put them in that sort of, Elvis to Beatles, sort of, mainstream sort of branding, so to speak. But, yeah, so Musicology was sort of that return to that. And a lot of the promotion leading up to that, too, as well, with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction, the Grammy performance with Beyonce, all of that was sort of, unfolding into this big, massive tour and, major album, and one of his most successful, not only in years, but of the 21st century period. So that was special enough. With the new MPG Music Club, the beauty of it is that there were always different tracks that were available to purchase, as download only releases. Nowadays we have iTunes and, the wherever, Google Play or wherever you get your downloaded music. We also have streaming services. So MPG Music Club was ahead of its time in regards to that. I think at that time the only other person that was doing that may have been David Bowie, I think. But this was great. So in addition, like I said, there had always been like a track here and there that was for sale. But here you had two entire albums kind of within that same week that Musicology was released. Um, wow, you had the Chocolate Invasion and you had Slaughterhouse that were released the same week. And I don't think of these as so much as albums, but again, I think it's sort of that gap between the playlist, the type of playlist that, where we call it playlists now. At one point, we call it mixtapes, but back in the day when you just put a collection of songs on a tape, and it's not necessarily, it can be thematic, but it's just a great collection of songs. You know, I've got a friend that was really great at that. God, it was when we were musicians. Keyboard player, best friend of mine, was great at that. Making because he would have certain Prince 12-inch singles or certain Janet Jackson 12-inch singles or different album tracks of other people that something that I didn't have in my collection, so to speak. And he would make these cassettes, and I mean, just the flow from beginning to end was just great on those. So that's what I think of the Chocolate Invasion and Slaughterhouse albums. They're kind of just a great collection of songs because you got this really great album in Musicology, and then it's sort of like almost like an album of B-sides almost, or two albums of B-sides almost. And that was kind of where I think things were, in the 21st century at that time. It was like back in the day, you got a Prince album, then there was a single, then it had a B-side. This is like, here's two albums worth of stuff that you've never heard before. And a lot of it was recent. I think a lot of it was recorded late 90s, kind of early, maybe 2001, 2002. I really don't have a favorite between the two. They are definitely, because they were marketed as a Volume 1 and Volume 2. So that's how I've always looked at it. So it was like, two great albums of, great collections of songs. And here's Volume 1, Volume 2. Now, I want to say maybe I do listen to the Chocolate Invasion a little more than Slaughterhouse, but there's no real reason why. Like I said, I don't have a particular favorite. I like a lot of the songs on both. And I really don't see anything that I would necessarily take out. But I do notice that with the digital release of Chocolate Invasion, so you've at the extra track of My Medallion, which wasn't on the original collection that was released in 2004. And it looks like, it's a different sequencing too, it looks like, on that as well. So I mean, like I said, I don't have a real favorite, but like I said, I do listen to the Chocolate Invasion a little bit more than I do Slaughterhouse. Now I kind of went back and listened to Slaughterhouse, and it's still enjoyable. Like I said, a lot of great songs on it, but let me go back to Chocolate Invasion. I won't go ad nauseum about all the different tracks on it. Let's see, just kind of, I don't know, beginning to end. When I Lay My Hands on You is great. It's really, to me, I like it when Prince kind of plays in that Santana mode. Of course, that's, Santana being one of his biggest influences. So with When I Lay My Hands on You, just since 2004, when I go back to listen to that, it's like I like the song and I like the structure of it, but definitely when it goes into that sort of Santana mode, Judah Smile is funky as all get out. Let's see, Super Cute, Underneath the Cream, both of those back to back are really great to listen to. Very, kind of mellow to me, grooving, but still, just mellow. And, just good stuff to play on a nice spring or summer day, too. Like I said, the rest of it I enjoy. And then we jump over to Slaughterhouse. Silicon, I think that's, sort of quintessential Prince. It's kind of a song that I think only he can do, regardless of what the influence is, but it's, how it's arranged and the choice of instruments and things of that nature and how it's recorded, it just becomes magically a Prince song, Let's see what else is on this one. Golden Parachute was one that I used to play a lot of. Like I said, I just kind of go back to Chocolate Invasion, but like I said again, no real reason why. And Slaughterhouse is not a bad album. It's really great to listen to. Let's see. Northside is funky. Peace is funky. 2045 Radical Man. To me, it was like, because I had the Bamboozled soundtrack already, so it was like kind of getting the same song twice. But it was nice to have it in a collection of Prince songs. So I guess that's kind of the plus for me on that one. And the Daisy Chain to me is probably hands down my favorite because it's just so funky out of that set on Slaughterhouse. Actually, I've kind of played with the configuration and sort of made my own playlist where I combined certain songs from both of these mixed in with some of my favorites from Musicology and also too I added because there was also Magnificent that dropped. I don't know if that dropped the same week, but that was sort of what I used to call like a virtual B-side because they were in relation. I thought they were in relationship to Musicology to me. So when he would drop sort of quote unquote new tracks like Magnificent, Glass Cutter, and I forget there was a ballad. I can't think of the name of it, but those three were sort of like virtual B-sides. Like if we still lived in an era of vinyl at that time, and say Musicology was the first single, Magnificent would have been the B-side on that. And so I kind of took those, combined them all up, and made a great, kind of a great mixtape for me, or mixed CD for me on that. So yeah, great songs on both of those. So I'm anxious for whenever they do a actual CD release. Like I said, back in the day, those were download only. And then there were also where you could download the artwork. So you can make your own CD cover. And back then I used to have where you could take the, do the labels and print the labels out for the actual CD itself. So the actual CD label and sort of the CD case cover as well. But I'm looking forward to these one day being released as CDs, actual CDs and vinyl. Yeah, I would actually get both of those, CD and vinyl, for those. So hopefully this, also in a previous episode, I talked about what would the next trio of releases that Sony would put out. And I kind of loosely mentioned those two. Now, I don't think these would be in the next round of whatever Sony decides to release next year. But I'm going to gamble on the fact that before 2020 is over, that these two will get a CD and vinyl release. I'm going to predict that one. I'm calling that one. So, what do you guys think? Like I said, we'll try to see about doing an NPG Music Club virtual reunion, I guess. Like I said, I'll toy with some ideas. I'll put it out there, see what you guys think. You guys can comment. Like I said, you can also submit a topic or idea to www.amaricommunications.com or on Twitter at Amari_now with the hashtag Amari Purple Talk. And that's going to end the show for today. Like I said, we're going to get the On Time, A Princely Life in Funk spoiler review. So be on the lookout for that when that drops. And that's only going to be on YouTube. So you'll still catch this episode episode 8 here on all your favorite podcast platforms. But definitely jump over to YouTube and check out the spoiler review. Be sure you buy the book first and then read it if you don't want to know all the details, because I'm going to be covering quite a bit in that. So that will end this segment. And as always, keep it purple and on the one.